Okay, hey there, I'm Brian. This is my photo show, and today's topic is the mechanical manual Nikon SLRs. What are they? What are the differences? Which one should I buy? I am not covering the F and F2. I'm covering instead the second tier, that is what today we would call the prosumer level cameras. They're semi-pro, semi-consumer. They were used primarily, or they were used extensively as backup bodies by professionals who primarily use the F and F2. The F and F2 can be a little quirky and expensive, so I'm not going to cover those. I do not own them. So first up, we have the Nikkormat FTN. This guy right here. This is actually the second Nikkormat. The first one was simply called the FT. I don't recommend it. It was in production from 1965 to 1967. It looked almost identical to this, except for the ASA scale was around the edge right here. That's not the case on the FTN. On the FTN, the ASA scale is down here. It's still awkward, but not as awkward as the placement over here. So the FT produced from 65 to 67. It had a full field average meter as opposed to the center weighted meter in the FTN. It had the really odd system where you had to reset the ASA scale every time you changed lenses. That was a hassle. There weren't that many made, maybe 100,000, 200,000. You don't see them all that often on the secondhand market, so just forget about them. And the FTN was an update of that design. And there's really no need to consider the FT because the FTNs are so numerous and so cheap. There were roughly 1 million of these things made. The production figures I'm seeing online from various sources are somewhere between 800,000 to 1.1, 1.2 million. So I think it's safe to say Nikon produced probably about 1 million of these. This one you'll notice is labeled Nikkormat. That means it was a Japanese market version. All other cameras of this series were called Nikkormat, just like this one. The name indicates no difference whatsoever. It was strictly marketing. All this means is that this camera was originally sold in Japan. So, shutter speed from 1 to 1/1000th. Center weighted center weighted metering pattern. And you've got the shutter speed visible in the viewfinder along with a needle which moves up and down in relation to an index mark. These can be had in absolutely pristine, top-notch condition for about $50. And that price is based on tracking the prices of these cameras at keh.com and usedphotopro.com. Those are prices in the United States, US dollars. You can probably beat those prices on eBay, but you're dealing with sellers of unknown reputation. Okay, so the update to this camera, this was in production from 1967 to 1975. It was followed by this, which is the Nikkormat FT2. The FT2 was in production for only 2 years, 75 to 77. And there were about maybe a quarter as many of these made as these. There may be 200 to 300,000, 250, 300,000. Again, I'm going off of production figures I've seen online of unknown reliability, but based upon how easy they are to find in the secondhand market, these things are, you see them everywhere. These are more rare, they're harder to find. They do represent an improvement and advancement over the FTN. The primary improvement is the switch to silver oxide batteries from mercury batteries. The Nikkormat FTN used mercury batteries with a voltage rating of 1.35. Those are no longer made for environmental reasons. You can't find them. So you have to use a 1.5 volt alkaline or silver oxide battery. There's a dispute as to whether or not that throws off the meter reading. I know at least one good repair technician who claims that there's really no major difference in the meter readings, so don't sweat it. This particular camera has been voltage converted, excuse me, so I can't really give you an opinion on that. There is a dispute. Some people claim that the voltage difference is a big deal, others say it's not a big deal. That's a whole other can of worms, a different topic for a different day. Bottom line, that mercury battery is keeping these things dirt cheap. $50, top-notch condition, flawless, excellent shape. And when I say that, I mean you can buy it online, you don't need to put any work into it. That kind of condition. Similar condition for an FT2, you're looking at about $100. These are about roughly twice as expensive as these. The primary advantage of the FT2 is silver oxide and mercury, silver oxide batteries as opposed to mercury. There was also it also has a permanently affixed hot shoe. The FTN did not have a hot shoe. There was a cold shoe accessory you could screw onto the viewfinder, which would sit up top here, but there was no hot shoe with the FTN. This has a hot shoe. Personally, I do not do any flash photography with my Nikkormats, so that makes very little difference to me. The big advantage of the Nikkormats is the ability to mount and meter with unmodified pre-AI lenses. Okay, take a look at these 250-1.4s. This one is an unmodified pre-AI lens. It's got the flat base with the solid metering prong. This is the AI version with a ridged base and a metering prong with holes in it. This lens sells for about $100 in really nice condition. This one for about $140. So big price difference between pre-AI and AI series lenses. That is the primary advantage of the Nikkormat line. If you buy Nikkormat, you can use unmodified AI lenses, which tend to sell at a discount between at least 20% up to 50%. Say 25 to 40% is probably about your average discount for unmodified pre-AI lenses. That's your big advantage of the Nikkormats. If you buy Nikkormat, it has the ability to accept the pre-AI lenses. That is all Nikkormat models except the FT3. The FT3 is identical, absolutely identical to this, except it does not have the metering pin. It has a metering tab like the FM and FM2. It does not have the metering pin. So the lens compatibility of the FT3 is the same as the FM and FM2. That is, in order to meter at full aperture, you must have an AI lens. It does have a metering tab that will fold back out of the way, so you can physically mount a pre-AI lens just like the FM. But you sacrifice full aperture metering. You must use stop-down metering in that situation. So I see no real reason to buy an FT3. An FT3, you've got all the disadvantages of the Nikkormat. It's big, it's heavy, and you can't see the aperture of the viewfinder with none of the advantages. Okay, these are big, heavy cameras. This thing weighs almost a full kilogram. This is slightly lighter, but still big, heavy cameras. Maybe you like that, maybe not, what have you. But nonetheless, they're very inexpensive, particularly this one. Extremely reliable. If you get one and you give it a good CLA with a good technician, you have a camera that's going to last you a lifetime. It will outlive your grandchildren. That's how good they are. Okay, moving on to the next series is the FM and FM2. So the FM has the advantage of the ADR scale. That is, you see there's a little window. No, you can't see that. There's a little window right here which reads the ADR scale, which is this second set of aperture numbers underneath the aperture prong. And those are reflected in the viewfinder. You can see it in the FM and in the FM2. In addition, the FM and FM2 use an updated light meter. The Nikkormats used a CDS or cadmium sulfide photocell. The FM uses a gallium photocell. The FM2 uses a silicon photocell, which are more advanced. They react quicker, they last longer, they're more reliable. Although if you find a Nikkormat with a working meter, you shouldn't have any trouble with it. But these meters are better, no question about it. On the FM, you have shutter speeds of 1 to 1/1000th, plus B, obviously. And an FM like this in top-notch, excellent condition is going to run you about $150. So, in terms of price, $50, excellent condition. $100, excellent condition. $150, excellent condition. You see the progression? You see the pattern? So, What do you think this would cost? The FM2. The FM2 is the updated version of the FM. It enjoys top shutter speed of 1/4000. What do you think the price of this is going to be? $325. $150, $325 in similar condition. Why? Good question. But before we answer that, consider this. The FM2 came in two versions. This is the first version. The first version had a a flash synchronization speed of 1/200th of a second. You can see that on the dial here where it says X200. That is your sync speed of 200th of a second. The FM2N had a flash sync speed of 250. Otherwise identical. Yet the FM2N sells for $400 in the same condition. The FM2 sells for $325 and the FM for $150. In my opinion, there is simply no justification whatsoever for spending that kind of money on an FM2. If you have lots of money, you don't care how you spend it, sure, get yourself an FM2, nothing wrong with it, great camera, very popular, reliable, high sync speed, high top shutter speed, 4000, sure, that's awesome, but do you really need it? When these are available when these cost $325 for the FM2, $400 for the FM2N, and this is available for $150, I'm just not seeing the justification. I don't see it. The FM is a phenomenal camera. The shutter on the FM is made of aluminum, on the FM2 of titanium, very thin foil type titanium shutter. They can be a little fragile. They have been known to break. These shutters don't break. You get an FM, the shutter just flat out doesn't break. It is one of the most reliable cameras ever made. FM2 shares the same reliability, but the titanium foil shutter can, it's a little bit more fragile than the aluminum shutter in this one. And I think that about covers it. If you're going to invest in a Nikon manual focus, all mechanical, manual exposure camera, the best deals in my opinion are right here. The FTN and the FM. $50, pristine condition, takes pre-AI lenses which sell at a 20 to 40% discount. $150 in pristine condition, absolutely reliable. It's more compact, it's lighter than the Nikkormats, and it does everything you need it to do. It's got a full information viewfinder. You can see the shutter speed and the aperture in the viewfinder. The focusing aids include a split image rangefinder surrounded by microprism collar. On the Nikkormat, the focusing aids are microprism dot. Only some of the later versions of the FTN had a split image rangefinder, but don't count on it. And the FTN is much bigger and heavier than the FM. Some people like that, but again, it's a matter of taste. These two, in my opinion, are your best deals for Nikon mechanical manual exposure cameras. If you want to save money on your lenses and buy unmodified pre-AI, this is the one to get. If you're on a budget, you want to get into Nikon, get you one of these. $50, pristine condition. If your budget's a little better, you're not afraid of the prices of the AI lenses, can't beat an FM. For $150, it is the top dog in terms of reliability, simplicity, in a manual exposure, all mechanical, battery independent 35mm SLR. All of these cameras take batteries only to power the light meter. All shutter speeds work without batteries. Every single camera that I just talked about. Okay, so there is your quick and dirty review of the Nikon so-called prosumer mechanical manual exposure cameras of the manual focus era. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.